Today on Shut the Front Door, we are joined by the fabulous Carole Annett, interiors editor at Country and Townhouse. Carole has been immersed in the world of fabric and interiors for over 20 years and previously worked at Conde Nast. She is also host of the House Guest podcast, where she chats to people behind the houses, hotels, and showrooms from around the world. Noted in the industry as having a keen eye for beauty and detail, Carole relishes in the creativity of people in their homes. We are so excited to chat to her today about her established career and personal taste when it comes to all things interiors. Welcome, Carole, to Shut the Front Door. How are you?
Thanks, Arlene. I'm very, very well. I hope I can. I hope I can live up to that rather glowing introduction. Thank you very much. I think it was somebody else you're talking about.
Not at all. I remember chatting with you and doing my first ever podcast back. I think it was December 2019. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, we did it at Chelsea Harbour, didn't we? In your new, was that when you had the new showroom?
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember being very nervous because I'd never done one before, and you made it all so easy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's so nice about the podcast, because it's just a chat. It's not like putting a camera in somebody's face and sort of, when sometimes people can be a bit like a rabbit in the headlights. I know that would happen to me if I was stuck in front of a camera. But the lovely thing about a podcast is that it's conversation. You're just chatting.
Yeah, I love that too. And you're less self-conscious. You're kind of just focusing on the questions being asked rather than what way you're sitting or all those silly things that probably come into your head, if you've got a camera in front of you.
Exactly.
So, Carole, I would love to chat with you, if I can, about your first memories of home. Can you share a little of those memories with me, please?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Leamington Spa in Warwickshire, and we had a lovely house, actually, which my dad always, he always reminisces and sort of says, I should never have sold that house, it's always those things in hindsight. But it was a lovely house, and it backed onto, had a little stream and a weeping willow in the garden, and it backed onto the local cricket club.
Okay.
Which is because my dad was a cricketer. And he played professional cricket, but for me, I don't remember the sort of big grounds and stuff. I just remember the little ground at the bottom of the garden, and it's still kind of part of our lives now, because my brother is kind of groundsman there and stuff, and we often have, big occasions there. We had my dad's 80th birthday there, and we all went and had a drink there after my mum's funeral, and I don't know, it's just kind of played a big part in our lives, But the thing I remember about the house is a big squishy sofa in front of the telly that was covered in a William Morris fabric, kind of faded green leaves. And I think that kind of William Morris look has always, I've always kind of been drawn to it. The beautiful big sweeping ferns and things. It's always, I think it's probably a kind of just reminiscent of childhood. And for some reason I remember a big standard lamp with kind of a silk shade which had heavy fringing on it, and every time we were kind of playing hide and seek or something, you'd always, if you hid behind the sofa, you'd always kind of rattle the fringing, and it would on the lampshade, and it would give yourself away, give away your hiding place.
Oh, wow. Your own home is so beautiful.
Thank you.
My goodness. So I know that you really genuinely love all things interiors. You're definitely passionate about it.
Well, I think it's, that's what I love about, having worked on House and Garden magazine for many years, and I'm now with Country and Townhouse, which is a much more of a lifestyle magazine where interiors is kind of part of the whole offering, with health and beauty and fashion and theatre and culture and food and travel and all the rest of it. And actually, I think that's the way that interiors fits into your life. There are very few people where it's just it's interiors are your whole life. It's kind of part of what we are about, and everybody has an idea. everybody has an idea of how they want to live. It's kind of that sort of doll's house thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Creating your perfect space. And I remember when my daughter was little, and her grandfather gave her a little doll's house, and I used to just spend hours with her, enjoying kind of making little, pasting things on the walls and making little cups and saucers out of plasticine and all that kind of thing. It's kind of, there's a sort of, I think, there's a homemaker certainly inside me, and I think maybe in quite a lot of us.
Yes. And what is your absolute favorite childhood memory of your home growing up?
Probably just sitting around the kitchen table, being a family. We used to have in fact, we still have the kitchen table. It had a monk's bench beside it. And I don't know why they're called monk's bench. You could sort of flip down the lid and it became the kitchen table. And then you could sort of flip it up and sit on it. And it had a seat which you lift up, and you could put things inside the seat. And actually, I don't know, do you know the word? Do you know monk's bench? Is it kind of something?
No, I don't.
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether it's just something that we used to call a monk's bench, or whether there is actually, something that is meaningful. I should have looked it up really before this, but
yes,
it still kind of plays a part in. We have a little house on the in the Witterings in Chichester by the sea, and the bench is still there. And I think it's just being a family and sitting around the table.
Yeah.
Just good times.
Good times, exactly. And they're important little pieces of furniture to cherish and take care of, because they tell their own story, really, don't they?
Absolutely. After my mother passed away, it's memories, isn't it? Furniture has a lot of memories locked inside.
I know, it's like a scent. Every time you smell that scent, it brings you back to that time. So it's like looking at that monk's bench will always remind you of really important memories in your life and your childhood memories. And what posters did you have on your teenage bedroom walls, if any?
Oh, always Rod Stewart.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, always. And then there's all the kind of the supermodels, the Linda Evangelista and Christy Turlington.
Yeah, I do.
All that kind of ilk. Those amazing Vogue pictures when they were all on the front.
Yeah,
just gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful.
And they really were supermodels. I don't know. It just felt like they were just different back then. I don't know why, but
yeah, and it was kind of the first time that really supermodels had made names for themselves. Prior to that, it was kind of just the modeling industry, rather than, and you didn't really have the okay, you had your Twiggies and your Cheryl Teagues and stuff, but it was unusual for you to know the actual characters, the people, the personalities, and they really shone through.
That's so true. There was Naomi, there was Claudine, I think, Linda, Cindy. Yeah. Helena, I think Christensen was another one. She was part of that tribe.
Yeah, and it's quite weird looking at Cindy Crawford's daughter now. I mean, she's like a mirror image practically, isn't she?
God, she's so stunning, isn't she?
Yeah.
My gosh, she is a mirror image. Yeah, she must be so proud of her, though.
Yeah, wonderful.
It's an interesting industry to go into. It's a tough business.
Very, very tough. Very tough. Yes, I had a very, very short modelling career when I was about 20, but I was completely useless because I hated being in front of the camera.
Oh, no. That's such a pity, though. Gosh.
No, it was, it wasn't a highlight of my my career. But I lived I grew up, I tell you, I lived in Paris for a year, and then I went to live in Barcelona for 6 months.
Fab.
And you really do, you're kind of really thrown into this this world, and you kind of you have to market yourself as a commodity, and it's very, very difficult when you're very young and naive, as I was, and living in a foreign country, wanting to be, just trying to be something which I just didn't feel. It was just, it felt very alien to me.
I know.
And it felt a very, very, very long way away from the supermodels on the cover of Vogue.
I know, but it was good that you tested the waters, because it kind of brought you closer to where you really, needed to be.
And actually it was interesting because, when I started having to do shoots and things, one of the first magazine I worked on, Mirabella magazine, I worked in the beauty department, and I would be sent on shoots to kind of oversee what was going on. But you kind of, oversee, all I knew really was you sit quietly in the corner and don't, you never kind of go up to the photographer and suggest that he maybe want to, change the lighting or do things in a different way. You're there to kind of go and, just make sure people turn up on time and boil the kettle every now and then. It's rather than kind of interfere and just, make sure you've got the Polaroid. It was always about getting the Polaroid, and you take it back to the office, or you take it back, and everyone wants to see the Polaroid to see what you've been up to.
Wow. Different times and completely to what it is now. Everything is so fast.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And also we don't do any, I don't do any shooting with Country and Townhouse because we're a small team, and the budget goes on our front covers and on the fashion shoots, which are absolutely beautiful. We have a fantastic team led by Nicole Smallwood and Lucy Cleland, the editor. But also, you don't necessarily need to shoot interiors these days, because all you wonderful interior designers get your projects professionally shot anyway, because you have to, because you're feeding the beast, you're feeding Instagram, you're feeding the website.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, it's wonderful. I get sent the most lovely projects to flick through, which is, the part of the job that I love, because I'm very, very nosy. I like seeing inside people's houses.
And do you think, just on that note, that like digital has just totally taken over from, hard copy, glossy magazines?
I think it's like vinyl. I think there'll always be a place for the camera being used in a traditional way, but it's very exciting what can be done. What can be done digitally. I was at the new Smallbone showroom in Knightsbridge the other day, and they have the biggest Samsung screen. It's almost the size of a bus, and the image definition is absolutely incredible.
Really?
Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite extraordinary.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm old-fashioned. I like the hard copy magazine. I do like looking at big screens and all that too.
Sure. Oh, for sure. And I think also there's a it's a bit like the kind of slow food movement. It's a slow read. When you sit down with a magazine, it's a very different experience than sitting down with an iPad or a phone where you're flicking endlessly. You don't really sit and concentrate on images like you do when they're in a magazine.
That's
and
so
I think
true.
also, I'm a great one for pulling out. I've actually just moved house, and I'm so embarking on a new project of doing up the house, and I pull things out of the magazine. That's what you have to do. It's, it's like I have a paper diary. I can't bear not being able to sort of rub things out with a pencil. Always the same one, always a Smythson, week on a page. I love it, absolutely love it. Every year I say to myself, I'm not going to spend that money again. It's ridiculous. And then every year I do, because I use it every day. It's literally with me every day. I write in longhand in the back, or I use up all the pages, and I can see what I'm doing. And I think, for me, I'm a great one for picking something up. It's tactile. I want to see the magazine on my coffee table. I want to enjoy it.
Yes, I know. And I like to collect them as well. I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's just a thing. I guess we're from a different era, probably, Carole, where we just appreciate that. But, it's for me, definitely getting a magazine. looking at it, as you say, you really relish it. You spend more time pouring yourself over, an article and looking at the beautiful pictures. And I would definitely always appreciate how much time would have gone into some of those beautiful shots.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all about the light. It's all about the composition. Everything is perfect. I really get that.
Yeah. No,
And how
extraordinary.
hard it is to get that shot.
Yeah, and if you've ever been on a shoot, I mean, it can be the most boring place ever because
I know.
And particularly, people with those sort of the eye for styling. It's funny. People, I am not an interior designer, and I have to emphasize that I am not. The idea of giving me a blank canvas or a kind of a white space to decorate, it literally sort of makes me go sort of slightly sweaty and breathless thinking about it.
I doubt that.
What I can do is look at an image and know whether I like it or not, know whether it's right for the magazine, know that it's going to be the right thing. But actually styling a house or styling a shoot, or creating these wonderful vignettes, when you go to bathroom showrooms like CP Hart or something, they have all these wonderful, inspiring little room sets. It's just is utterly terrifying. And I remember Gabby Deeming, the lovely decorations director I worked with for many years in House and Garden magazine, and she used to sit and draw or paint. All the features that she did, she would draw, hand draw and colour before she went on the shoot to give the photographer and anyone else working on the shoot an absolute image of how she wanted it to look and where everything was going to be placed and where the plant pot was going to be placed or whether there was a picture on the wall. And they were absolutely beautiful. And I think it's the same with kind of, the traditional drawings. People like interior designers like Tim Gosling, who will, provide drawings for their clients, or even providing a book. I just think there's something so lovely about handing over a book to a client at the end of a project and saying, this is your house. It's a bit like that kind of sort of, this is your life, isn't it? This is what we did. We started with a blank sheet of paper, and this is what we've come up with. And there's something so personal. I mean, I take my hat off to you and other interior designers, because I think it's very courageous going into somebody's house and saying, I can make this work for you. I can create a lifestyle and a home that's going to suit you, and you're going to love it. To me, that's utterly terrifying.
It is. It can be, and it's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
To get it right for them. And then, once you sign off on the concept, then to execute it is a whole different story as well. And yeah, there's the front story, and then there's the real backstory, it can be 70% project management to any given project, and then 30% is on the lovely stuff at the beginning, where you're,
yeah. I think when I had my house previously, where we've just sold, we used an interior designer called Emma Sims-Hilditch, and I'd got to know her over the years.
I love her.
She's wonderful, isn't she? And it was very much, it was an English country house style. It was very much her kind of genre of what she was very good at. And also, I got on very well with her. And I always say to people, if you're looking for an interior designer, I mean, yes, okay, you look at their body of work, but also you need to be able to get on with that person. That's a really key part of who you choose to work with, is that you like them as a person and that they like you, because you're going to be getting into some very personal conversations about how you live, about how you bath, what you
it's
do
very,
first thing in
very
the morning.
Personal. When you're getting into people's walk-in wardrobes and how they fold their their smalls and where they store their socks, and you create quite a personal relationship with your clients.
Working with Emma was a massive learning curve for me, because actually what you realize is that the bones of being an interior designer, actually, 90% of it is really the kind of functional, the measuring, the space planning. It's really kind of just the last, the last kind of 10% is the sort of frilly bit, the fabrics, and the bit that people often kind of associate with being an interior designer is actually the fun bit, is a tiny, tiny proportion. It's kind of, how high do you want your skirting board? Where do you put the doorknob on a door? Do you want the door to open left or right, in or out? How far? How do you stop the door clashing into the window behind it? It's incredibly, it's so many things we take for granted that when you realize. And I think what the biggest thing that I learnt with Emma was scale and proportion, and she pushed us to have, not just, okay, you choose a light fitting. We actually had two incredible Vaughan, I call them cow's udders. I don't know what the technical, but I mean, they look like enormous cow's udders. Great, big, beautiful arc hand. I think they were mouth blown. They're enormous.
Yes.
Great big beautiful hanging chandeliers over the kitchen island. And if I'd gone into Vaughan and chosen those lamps, I would have gone for something half the size. I would never have put in something quite as enormous. I just wouldn't have been brave enough. But that's what created the wow factor.
Interesting.
And choosing we had a beautiful leaf chandelier in the front hallway. And again, it was enormous. It was oversized, and it was magnificent, and it really suited the space. And I know that had I chosen it on my own, I would have gone for something, a third of the size, and it just would have looked diddly.
Yes. So she pushed you.
Yeah.
And you needed that push.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing was the difference that lighting can make. Realizing that really it's it's okay going out to choose a paint color or saying you love citrine or pink or whatever, but you have to understand how the light is going to make that color look, and which and also the way that your house is facing. If you're choosing that color in daylight and then you're going to put it on a north wall, it's not going to look the same color.
That's so true. Yeah. It's science, really. It's really interesting. No, I know. And I guess people don't realize all that you bring to the table when you're coming into a project like that.
Yeah.
All the things that need to be considered to get it just right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. It gave me a whole new appreciation of what you guys do, I have to say.
And so when did your own passion for interiors begin exactly?
I guess really probably when I first moved into my own home, which actually was the day my daughter's about to turn 30, and I moved, as most people do, right at the last minute. I actually went into hospital to give birth the day that we moved into the house, leaving it a little late, but anyway. And I think when you move into your own home, that's kind of you sort of realize what it is that you like and don't like, and what you want to live with. And I remember kind of going to choose a new kitchen and just thinking about the way it was a very long, thin kitchen. And we had all the handles going the same way. And we had a floating shelf, which of course, I was so super proud of, just kind of coming up with the idea of having a shelf with no kind of visible means of support. And it's just kind of noticing things. I think when you start to put your own house together, it makes you notice things about, just things that you like and how things work. And having, we had particularly large stone, the size of the stone tiles on the floor, we wanted particularly big, and just kind of things like that when you walk into the house, you might not have noticed, but for me, they there are little things that really make a big difference, or can make a difference if you get them right.
Yes, I know. And what does good design mean to you? Like in a nutshell, how would you?
It has to be functional.
Yeah,
Has to be functional.
yeah,
There's no point in having something really beautiful that's either untouchable or it just it just doesn't work.
I know. I know it must work. It can't just be something that's lovely to look at. It needs to be something that is functional and that you can live with.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think, particularly kitchens, that whole kind of, the kitchen triangle, and, you need to have the fridge and the oven and the bin and the this and the that and the kitchen. I'm kind of, I have a bit of a sort of love-hate relationship with very high-tech kitchens, because I don't know, sometimes you can have all the gadgets in the world, and really all you're using the kitchen for is to make a cup of tea and cook a slice of toast. You need, there's no point in having all these kind of super high-tech stuff if you're not going to use it. I have a great friend of mine who insisted on having an Aga and a steam oven and a this and a that. And of course, she's never even opened a steam oven. I don't think she even knows how it works. And it's all very well falling in love with all these things, but you really, a good design or a good designer or a good kitchen designer is only going to lead you to things that you're actually going to use.
That's so true. That's so true. And again, this is all down to the brief and getting and understanding everything from the very, very start before you start working on a project. It's really important to get all these details right.
Yeah, and being realistic, being realistic about how you actually live, not kind of thinking, oh, well, I'm gonna, I want to put a gym in because I'm gonna, I've got my New Year's resolution is going to be to run 10 miles a day or whatever. I mean, we've all been there, we've all done it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Don't put a gym in your house if you're not going to use it. Buy some walking shoes and a dog, and that's much more likely to get you out the door.
Exactly. No, that's so true. That's so true. And it's really actually, I did work on a gym with a client once, and they were absolutely certain that they wanted a gym in their home, but it was really only until later they realized that they would not use it if it was at home. It was an afterthought, unfortunately, for them.
Yeah.
And they felt that they were more disciplined when they had to go to a gym.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm exactly the same. I have to have somebody. I go and work out with I have a neighbor, a lovely South African lady called Belinda, who, and we train outside. I can't bear going inside. I have to be outside. It doesn't matter. And she shouts at me for an hour and we run around, and it's bliss.
I love it. I need some of that action myself, actually. I love it. I love it. And Carole, I loved following your collection with the wonderful design house, Celine, your Smith and Noor collection. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I'm working with a lady called Noor Charchafchi.
Yes, I love her.
She literally is like a whirlwind. And Noor is one of those people who she is always coming up with ideas. And at the beginning of lockdown, she was, we did a little online thing called Design Platform. And she would either WhatsApp me or call me every day with ideas. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? Hey, Carole, how about doing this? And then eventually, one of her ideas, she called me up. She said, why don't we have a fabric collection? We ought to start, we ought to have a fabric collection. We ought to be doing something for the industry. It's such a dreadful time. We have such amazing wools and mills and in this country, and we need to support them. We need to champion them. And that was really kind of how it started, because I suddenly kind of thought, actually, you have hit on something that I'm quite passionate about, and that would be also fun. And there's no point in doing something that's not fun. So we have curated a collection of pure wools and linens, some Irish linen, and put it together in a collection under the brand Smith and Noor.
Wow. Yeah, I loved it. I was so interested to see you getting, behind and involved something like that. I thought that was a very cool move for you. I was like, wow, watch
Well,
this space.
yeah, well, it's like everything. If you kind of look too hard into it, or sometimes it's easier not to do things, and when you kind of look at things, it look too hard into it, you might talk yourself out of it. But working with somebody like Noor, you just get on and do it, and you know and it's wonderful. And that's been a learning curve too. It's been learning all about wool and what an incredible fiber it is, and how it it's naturally fire retardant. It keeps you warm, it keeps you cool.
Yeah.
It's an extraordinary material, and we have the most fantastic mills in the UK. And we've got the blinking Italians coming and buying some of our mills now, and it's we need to appreciate what we've got, and it's really important that we know how some of these mills are hundreds of years old, and they're still being still being used, and it's a wonderful part of our heritage. You talk about the Industrial Revolution with coal and steel. You think of coal and steel, and actually cotton was a massive part of that. Cotton and fibers and wools, and it's part of our history.
Can I ask you, can I bring you back to when you first started your career in journalism? Did you have a mentor yourself?
I worked with an amazing lady called Leslie Kenton. And she's no longer around, but she used to be the beauty director on Harper's and Queen magazine, and she was there for about 18 years. And when I started, so my first foray into the world of magazines was when I entered the Vogue writing competition. I think Vogue still has a writing competition and photography competition they do every year. It's been running for well, crikey, it's over 30 years now. And so I entered this competition, and 6 of us who got to the final went and had lunch at Vogue House. And I always remember sitting, feeling very, very, going to Vogue, going to Conde Nast was like sort of going to the Mount Olympus. It was just, it was kind of the most exotic and amazing place I could possibly go. And I went off to Marks and Spencer's and bought myself a new suit. I had a green suit, very kind of Joan Collins, 8 big shoulder pads and gold buttons.
Wow.
Thought I looked like the bee's knees. And anyway, that was what got me excited about journalism and gave me the confidence to then to apply for other jobs. And I went to my interview with Leslie, and she was the most extraordinary woman. She was so ahead of her time. She'd written a book called Raw Food, and it was all about how we need to eat more locally and seasonally, and not cook so much, to eat food in its natural form. She had 4 children by 4 different men, and I think the last child was sort of born in her organic vegetable garden, kind of, with under a howling moon. I mean, she was the most extraordinary person, but she was absolutely wonderful to work with, because she wouldn't ever say, oh, you are only the assistant, you can't come to this or you can't come to that. She involved me in everything, absolutely everything. And we just used to, I used to do the most wonderful trips with the perfume houses, and when Chanel was bringing out their new colors for the season, we'd get taken to Paris and staying somewhere amazing. And it was a wonderful time. And she was very, very generous, not only with her knowledge, but also just with everything that we did. We did everything as a team.
Yeah. Wow. What a wonderful mentor and teacher for you.
Yeah. No, she was lovely. She was really lovely.
And what is your most, like, of all the properties you've ever featured, which would be your favorite property you've covered in a publication to date?
Oh, I think it has to be Chatsworth House. the Duke of Devonshire.
Yeah.
He and his wife, they have the most extraordinary eye. He has mixed such modern taste in a property of that age with all that kind of history surrounding it. He has a lot of Edmund Duval ceramics and things like this, and just all sorts of kind of stuff that you wouldn't think would go together, and yet it's just so carefully juxtaposed with the kind of historical bones of the building. Rugs with quite bold patterns underneath ancient bits of furniture. It's absolutely genius. Absolutely genius.
Wow. Fabulous. And who is the most interesting guest you've ever had on your podcast?
Well, other than yourself, obviously. Oh gosh, that's a really difficult one, because there's you find out the most. You always find a little nugget about people that you didn't know. I remember Tim Gosling saying that when he was young growing up, they always used to go to nudist colonies on holiday, and that's where he learnt to draw. And he always draw the nude form, and that was what it was, that portfolio of basically life drawings, which got him into art school. And then somebody like Martin Lawrence Bullard, who's done houses for the Kardashians and for Cher and people like that. I mean, he's a wonderful storyteller, telling me stories about how Cher wanted people to be able to come and watch her bathe, because all her rooms were like a theatre set for her, like a stage.
Oh, wow.
And so he created this bathroom which had a sort of gauze that came down from the ceiling and surrounded the bath, and then it had sort of seating benches around so that she can have conversations with people while she was soaping her leg provocatively or whatever she does in the bath.
Oh my God.
And it's just fascinating, just hearing kind of how people live, and down to, Nina Campbell, who was one of the very first people that I interviewed, saying that, well, of course you're going to have a dog on your bed, and of course your guests are going to have a dog on the bed. So you go and you buy old Spanish tablecloths, and because they're very easy to throw in the washing machine and they look beautiful, and you can you can make sure that you put them in the wash after every visit. Because she said, I can't stand kind of old quilts and counterpane. She said, you're never quite sure what's how long they've kind of been sitting around.
God, interesting. And I'd say Martin was quite the storyteller. I mean, he's just such a big character, isn't he?
Yeah, he's wonderful, and he's quite naughty as well. I think I like people who have a bit of a twinkle in their eye, and it's you have to have fun with it. We're very lucky. We work in a very, very wonderful world of interiors, and it's filled with extraordinary people who are very generous. I haven't really worked in the fashion industry other than my very kind of short-lived modeling career, but for me it didn't have the same feel. I think people are very generous when it comes to the world of design and decoration, and very happy to share ideas and to help each other.
Mm-hmm. And here's a question for you: Is going green and being more sustainable something you think about more often?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and very much as far as the magazine's concerned as well. We've just published our supplement called GBB Zero, which was published to coincide with the COP26 summit, and it's 26 features with 26 of the biggest names in the luxury industry, from Bentley to Burberry, about what they are, how they are trying to be greener and more sustainable. And that it's extraordinary reading, actually, because it's very, very honest. A lot of these companies are not there yet, and it's about realizing none of us are really there yet, and what we're going to do about it.
Yes, exactly. Carole, did you find Brexit a challenging transition for you personally?
A surprising one. I mean, I wasn't. I never thought that we'd actually leave. I think it was a big shock to a lot of people that we were we kind of lost part of our family, and when. I was traveling the other day, and you normally you kind of you go through the passport and you file down your little EU corridor, and suddenly it's like, well, hang on a minute, we're not part of it anymore. So I mean, it hasn't really made a big difference to me, other than I know it's been difficult for people working when it comes to supplies and that kind of thing. It's just made things a little trickier.
Yeah, and it's definitely made business trickier, and I definitely think it's challenged the industry on a whole, really. Yeah, it's been challenging, but I think hopefully we're going to come out of it okay.
Yeah. And we have to embrace change, we have to accept change, and you have to look forward positively.
And in all of your travels, which architect or designer has inspired you the most?
Oh, I think it has to be Frank Gehry. Well, or maybe it's difficult. Or Zaha Hadid. I mean, the most extraordinary.
She's amazing. She's really incredible.
Particularly the I think the Aqua Centre that she did for the on the London Olympic Park. Like a kind of a big skate fish with his kind of wings out. Just extraordinary, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. And what is she like?
I never met Zaha, actually. I kind of admired her from afar. But I think also, growing up in that, as an Iraqi woman, it was the challenges that she had to overcome.
For sure.
Extraordinary.
Like, her work is actually incredible. I saw some of her work in New York, and I was just like amazed at it. It's just very unique. It's very her. And
there's definitely a Zaha stamp, isn't there?
Yeah, totally. Like, you would kind of almost guess which buildings are hers.
Yeah.
She's incredible. And what part of your whole day-to-day working process do you love the most?
Oh, just meeting people.
Yeah.
Getting out there and meeting new people and seeing their creativity. Whether it's interior designers or crafts people, or it's just people who are passionate about what they do.
Yes.
That's what's exciting.
Mm-hmm. And how did the whole concept for your podcast, The House Guest, come about? How did that begin?
We were just chatting. We were chatting in the office, and that's what's so exciting about being with a magazine like Country and Townhouse, is that they, it's a really we're because we're such a small a small company. We can react to things and kind of, when you come up with ideas, you just get on and do them. It's kind of like, we'll go off and do it. I often think, it's funny being at Conde Nast. I often think Conde Nast is like a sort of big steamship, kind of, with all the sort of levels of all your different decks, or your kind of levels of hierarchy and bureaucracy that you had to go through, it was a wonderful, wonderful place to work. But change is very slow, very, very slow. Whereas at Country and Townhouse, we're like a sort of nippy little catamaran that can kind of zoom around and be a bit more flexible, and that's exciting, and it allows you to come up with ideas. And we were chatting about Lucy, the editor, used to have a podcast about sort of What's On podcast. And she had decided it had kind of wasn't really what's right for the magazine, and we just sort of said, well, hang on, why don't we think about doing an interiors one? And that was it. And the next week I just went and did it.
Oh my goodness!
And kind of started off with people that I knew very well.
Yes.
Bless him, Martin Hulbert. I think he was my first victim, because I knew that we could just kind of can it if it didn't work. And then lovely Nina Campbell, who's just charming and divine, and always says yes to everything. And and that was it. It was just a chat, and we just got on with it.
Wow, it's amazing. It's done so well for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And do you carefully select the designers that you interview, or do they come to you, or how does that process work?
It's a bit of both, really. A bit of both. But also, if I find that I'm kind of chatting with somebody, or you get an email and it's kind of so and so's doing this, or so and so's doing that, and then I pick up the phone and we have a conversation, and also just trying to I'm just interested in people and interested in what they're up to. And there's always a story. I mean, I was chatting with Deborah Bass Deborah Bass of Bass Interiors, or it's Deborah Bass of, but yeah, yes, she's a bass and a bass, and we were chatting, and she was saying how she had started doing a psychology. Then that's quite unusual. Somebody who's an interior designer who's also bringing up 3 children and studying psychology. But she said it was extraordinary about how it had kind of given her a different way of thinking about her clientele. And she said it had made her more understanding of people who come to her and say, I want you to do everything. And, she used to find that quite difficult to accept, that, well, why do you want me to do everything? Surely you've got some idea of how you want to live.
Yes.
And she said, actually, you have to remember that some people have come from very difficult backgrounds, where they either literally don't kind of have anything they want to hang on to, or it's the memories are too painful, and that's why they want you to create something new for them.
Oh gosh, that's so true.
To make new memories.
Yeah, that's really lovely. That's a lovely way to think about it, really. Such a big responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, enormous.
Or then you find the other type of client who says they don't know what they want, and they want you to look after everything. Because they're just nervous of that their own decisions and what they like will work, you know, and that they just don't have that confidence, and they need someone there to reassure them.
Yeah,
along the way.
That's a really important thing to remember. Actually, is that if it, so much of it is about confidence, and if you want to live in a room with black walls or pink walls or white walls, or it doesn't matter. If that's what makes you happy, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks of it.
Totally agree. I always think that too. This is their home, and we're just there to make what their vision of their home come true. I would never be one to impose a certain look or feel or what I think they should do on them. I might subtly suggest something to them, but ultimately, it's about them.
Yeah. I love that story you told me about Trini Woodall and the Trini chair. Creating a chair for
Trini,
for Trini.
we still have that in our collection, but like she's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she's just brilliant. But for her, it was all about tailoring and the piping and the shape and the comfort and the height. And she had such great kind of knowledge about detail
Yeah.
from her fashion background.
Yeah.
And then, of course, color is really important to Trini as well.
Yeah. That pop of color.
Yeah, she loves her yellows, her acid yellows. That's her signature tone, I think. It's her happiest tone. It makes her happy.
It's funny, I was wandering through Fenwick department store the other day, and just looking at all the makeup counters and stuff, and there were one or two people at the Laura Mercier or MAC or whatever, and I walked over to the Trini counter. It was full. There was like
wow.
6 or 7, and it's, I don't know what it is about. She has really very, very cleverly. I think it's the personality she puts behind it. She's very honest about what she does. She's very honest about the issues that with her own skin, and I think that's what comes across. And you kind of, it's very relatable.
Oh, I absolutely love her. I love her. I follow her myself. I just think exactly, no nonsense approach to everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you feel like you can trust her.
Yeah. That's that's absolutely the right word. Is trust.
Yeah. There's something about her that you just know she's got this. She's done it all. She's experimented with everything you can possibly imagine. Good, bad, or indifferent. She's been there. She's done that. She's bought the T-shirt, and you feel like you're just getting the edited version of what to do and not to do. And she adds all that humor to it as well, which just makes it so easy, so exactly. I love her. I love her. So what's your favorite design style? How would you describe your style in a nutshell?
Oh, Arlene, that's so hard. That is so hard, because I'm that this is my problem. This is my problem I now have with doing my own project, is that I fall in love with with something every day, whether it's a plain sort of piece of tailoring fabric with a little herringbone in it, or, and tomorrow it'll be some sort of completely over the top, heavily embroidered, rich colored tapestry or whatever. And I just want it all. That's my problem. It's just so many beautiful things. But I think you have to be realistic with the house, with the style of the house that you're buying, and not kind of, either. I think you need to kind of, you need to sit and live in a house first and kind of feel how you're going to use it and how you're going to be. And I think for me, it's always going to come back to that kind of English country look.
Yes,
because that's where I live. I live in the countryside, and I just feel, I feel comfortable around those gentle colors of nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, calming. Takes you away from your hectic lifestyle. It's just
well, but we're also, we're very, very lucky. When you go to all these wonderful places or wonderful hotels, or you maybe get invited to somewhere crazy like Annabelle's, or and to go and enjoy those kind of spaces. What Martin Brudnitsky did with to create a new Annabelle's and to have the same kind of buzz about it as the old Annabelle's was
designed
extraordinary.
Annabelle's? Who's the designer of Annabelle's?
It's Martin Brudnitsky.
Oh my goodness!
And I mean, it's just so incredibly over the top, and you couldn't really possibly live like that. I mean, it would send you dotty, but to go and enjoy those kind of spaces. I've just been to a place in Italy called Castello di Reschio, and the family that own the estate, he's called Count Benedict Bolzo,
Oh my gosh.
and they've only just renovated the hotel, so you could go and stay in one of the villas on the estate, and now you can go and stay in the castle, and there are 36 rooms. And he's an architect, and he also he designs furniture, which he sells on First Dibs and Artemis. But it was just one of the most beautiful places I've ever been.
My
Everything,
gosh.
it was that kind of simple luxury, if that kind of makes any sense. Beautiful hunks of Carrara marble in the bathroom.
Wow.
He's used a lot of copper and sort of antiqued bronze, kind of in keeping with the colours of the castle walls, and terracotta floors and that kind of thing.
Beautiful.
And beautiful four-poster beds with kind of brass detailing. Really, really sumptuous and beautiful, kind of cashmeres and wools, but in very, very muted colours.
So inspiring.
But of course, now that, I want my house to look like that now. I'm just not sure how I was going to translate.
I think you're describing what you want now for yourself. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
So tell me about your own home. So, or I suppose your new home, or where do you see yourself? I don't know if I should speak in the current or in the future. Home.
So this house is it's actually an old stables. So although at the moment it doesn't have many original features, so I'm kind of looking to put some of the features back in. Probably put back a few beams and get some kind of get a bit more wood in there. I was sitting in a restaurant yesterday, and I looked above my head, and it had a sort of raw oak paneling on the ceiling, and it was actually very. It was quite a smart restaurant, but it had a kind of made it sort of feel quite cozy.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about floor coverings. I'm thinking about my kitchen, whether I'm going to have an island or whether I'm going to have a sort of, it's quite an old building, so I might kind of go for that sort of, the kind of plain English design look, which is very sort of simple Georgian with a pantry and maybe a flagstone floors and a big workbench, that like a sort of big old kitchen table, but with deep drawers, so that I can get some pans and stuff in there.
Lovely.
There's so many things to think about.
You'll need to get your monk's bench in there.
I do need to get my monk's bench there. You're quite right. Yeah.
Sounds great. So what is your morning ritual, Carole? What happens when you wake up in the morning? Chat me through that.
I'm usually woken up by the dog barking because he wants his breakfast. So Eddie the Labrador, he's like an alarm clock. It was, when the clocks change, it's very difficult trying to tell a Labrador that actually he needs to stay in bed for an extra hour.
Oh God, the poor baby.
So go downstairs, make my cup of tea, give Eddie his food. George the Lurcher, he's a bit older now, so he takes a bit longer to kind of get himself up, warm his old bones and get himself up to
Eddie
come and have his breakfast. And then I sit with the dogs and have a cup of tea. And then it's usually kind of shower and change and kind of whiz out the door, really. If it's a day when I'm at home, then I stick my kind of running kit on, although I have to say I don't do much running. And go off stomping. There's so many beautiful walks near where I am. So we'll go off stomping with the dogs early. I like going early when there's not too many people around. And you usually see the same kind of people. We get a lot of bird watchers around where we are, and people who also kind of like to go out early with the dogs.
Nice.
Then it's home for coffee. Got to have a coffee. And then kind of getting on with the day, really, either getting the train to London or sometimes I drive to London. And there's usually, I'm very fortunate in that there's a lot of socializing when it comes to interiors. You're either seeing PR companies, going to look at maybe a new fabrics being launched, or somebody wants to show you their new furniture or lighting, or there's always something going on.
So exciting.
Yeah, it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I'm very, very lucky.
You are. It's very exciting, definitely. And how does social media fit into your life?
Oh my goodness, it's the beast that needs constant. It's always got its mouth open. I try and feed my Instagram account every couple of days, and obviously there's the Country and Townhouse. We have a fantastic team that work on the Country and Townhouse Instagram and website as well. And really just, things that I see, or again, it's during the day, whether I have I think yesterday I posted something from Ochre. I went to Ochre Lighting, OCHRE, based in Pimlico.
I know them.
And they're absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
Beautiful pieces.
I've ordered some of their pieces, yeah. Lovely.
And they've just come up with a new rug collection. Oh. And so I was in their showroom yesterday morning, just chatting about that. And what's really fascinating about the rugs is they're made in India, but what they've done is they've mixed the textures. So, for example, she had a beautiful kind of mustardy rug in a great, that looked like it had 3 different shades of mustard. But actually what they'd done was they'd used 3 different fibers. So they had a jute fiber, a wool and a silk, and then they put it in the dye. And because the fibers have different textures, it had taken on the dye in different ways.
Interesting.
So the one big square rug looked like it actually had 3 bands of slightly varying colour because of the way they'd woven it. Really, really beautiful. And it's just clever, People are clever.
They are. Are they still on the Pimlico Road? Am I right?
Yeah. It's I'm not sure whether the showroom's slightly changed. I don't know whether they kind of moved next door or something, but it just seemed bigger, or maybe it was because there was less in there, or they've put the rugs on the wall. But it's a wonderful area, That's Pimlico,
really interesting.
That little Pimlico area.
It's great that they're stepping out of lighting and they're trying new things. That sounds very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're a cool company. They have been around for a very, very long time.
They're a fantastic company. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And and what's really, what I love in this job is getting to know the people behind the brands, because you have these enormous brands and you think they must be, somebody like David Hunt Lighting, are based in the Cotswolds, and it's a really tiny team and things are hand finished. And you kind of, sometimes you don't appreciate the you see something on the shelves in John Lewis or a store, and it's learning about how those pieces came to be. And I remember going to a factory tour. I love a factory tour. Going to the Samuel Heath factory in Birmingham. They make brassware, and there are 2 guys hand polishing each piece of brassware before it goes in a box. They stand there all day hand polishing, making absolutely just making sure everything is perfect before it goes in the box.
Wow.
And it's a job they take absolute pride in.
Yes.
And I love that about the industry.
Yes, I know. And that is what they do, and they do it so well. They're like Armac, the way they know what their niche is, and that's what they do, and they do it really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a memory. I remember when I was last when I last popped into Ochre, I popped across the road to David Linley's.
Oh yeah.
Showroom, which is incredible. Have you ever done a podcast with him?
I have done a podcast with David. Yes, I have. And he was very charming and and fascinating, really. It's I think he was sitting in. Actually, we were in the Christie's office. We in St James's. I went and interviewed him there, in his office where he has the most beautiful portrait of his mother, Princess Margaret, on the wall. I'm not going to be able to remember the artist, but it was as you would expect, it was a beautiful, beautiful office, and with his kind of, one of his kind of signature Linley marquetry desks.
Beautiful, hand polished.
Yeah.
When you were
Gorgeous.
talking about the hand polishing with the Samuel Heath, then it reminded me of his pieces across the road in there.
Yeah, but also what I love about Lindy is that, I mean, okay, you go in and you see the incredible cocktail cabinets or console tables, which are kind of £60,000.
Yeah,
but then you can buy a little wooden mouse doorstop or something for kind of £50 or something.
I know, but you need to walk out with something.
Well, exactly, and also because they package it also beautifully and tie it up with ribbon and tissue paper, and then
stunning.
make it look yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive.
Yeah,
I remember I saw him once a couple of years ago at one of the shows in the Chelsea Design Centre, and I was just totally starstruck. I was like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah, and he, bless him, he, he's always, it must be quite difficult when you've got obviously got a famous face, but he, he'll always have a smile for everyone, and
he was super friendly. Yeah,
absolutely,
he was.
Yeah, he was absolutely.
I think he saw that I was starstruck, and he was very nice. He calmed me down. So tell me, Carole, how is Christmas Day going to be for you and your family this year?
Oh, golly gosh. Probably a bit chaotic, I should think, as always. My kids still have stockings, even though they're 28 and Phoebe will be 30 by then, but they still have stockings. And we will get up, do the stockings, have a walk with the dogs, and then probably be travelling to my sister in Warwickshire and have a noisy, crazy family lunch with my dad, who's now 87, and everyone cooking together. We'll open a bottle of champagne, which probably me and my kids will drink because my sister doesn't drink, and we'll sit down until everybody's absolutely stuffed themselves silly, and then we'll fall asleep in front of the telly.
Oh, that sounds ideal. That sounds ideal.
Yeah.
Lovely. And Carole, here's a question for you. If you could invite 3 people to your dinner party, and they can be anyone in the world, who would they be and why?
Well, I've just watched a program about the late Jackie Collins.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely fascinating. And of course, I was brought up with reading Jackie Collins, so I would have her. I'd have to have Rod Stewart, obviously. I'm afraid I couldn't have Penny as well. She'd have to stay at home, look after the kids. So it would be Rod and Jackie, and then maybe Christopher Howe. Howe from Howe, and do you know the Howe London in Pimlico? He is the most fascinating person, and he's a designer and a workman, and he's got the most extraordinary eye. And I'd like to chat a little bit to Christopher and find out more about him, because he whenever I'm in the showroom or get to see Christopher, it's always with lots of other people around. So it would be quite nice to just be the 4 of us sitting down for dinner, and I'm sure he'd enjoy Rod and Jackie's company too.
Wow, gosh! And can I ask you, Carole, how would you describe yourself in 5 words?
Oh, crikey! That's really. Oh, golly.
Go on, give it your best shot. Don't think about it. Just shoot. Shoot from the hip.
Well, I hope I'm kind. I think kindness is very, very important.
Yeah.
A bit scatty. I can definitely have my blonde moments. Energetic.
Yes, I would agree. Organized?
I'd like to say I was organised. I'm not very good at making decisions. Indecisive.
Okay,
Is
there's
that
one.
5?
That's 4.
Okay.
You need one more. So far, you're kind, scatty, energetic, indecisive.
Positive.
I love it.
Always positive.
Yeah,
always
that's
positive.
a good one. And if you could just stay with me for a few minutes, I'm going to ask you what's called our quick fire round of questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Bath or shower?
Bath.
Text or talk?
Talk.
Books or digital?
Book.
Movies or books?
Movie.
Red or white wine?
Red.
City or country living?
Country living.
Home or abroad?
Home.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Interior design or architecture?
Interiors.
Morning or night?
Morning.
Modern or classic?
Modern.
And my final question is Jackie or Rod?
Always Rod. Always Rod.
Oh, excellent.
Just don't ask why.
You need to get him on as a house guest. You need to get him on. I think he's calling your name.
I'll try.
Well, Carole, thank you so much for chatting with me today, and it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you.
Eileen, it's very, very kind of you. I've never been on this side of the desk, and it's quite daunting. So it was very, very kind of you to invite me on. And
well, you're a very interesting person, and I've loved chatting with you and learning more about you today.
Thank you. Thanks, Eileen.
So thank you and take care. And I hope it's not too early to wish you a very Merry Christmas.
No, never. Merry Christmas
and a Happy New Year.
Thank you.